Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Over Easy event in which the Crystal Eggs is added to the game. So this week brings a lot of very good things. Most noteworthy one is of course Vault event weekend this weekend. However, we also got an Infinite Blue Loop Troop for the Journey event, which of course, as all the other ones, is pretty strong. Most notably, it actually has Rope Dart synergy, so we can end up doing that with various Knight teams. And a few other things that end up working out pretty good, so we have quite a few teams that end up showing as well this video. And aside from that, let's start getting into all of the modes. So, one other thing to probably mention too is today is the last week for the Season Pass, the one that we have going on right now. So definitely make sure to go and complete that out, especially if you have paid for the pass. I haven't covered a video on this guy yet. We went over him last week on stream. He is so bad. He's fun though, but he's just so bad. I'd rather just like double up on little Johnny on a map boost ratio team rather than use this thing. It is pretty underwhelming, but definitely make sure to get him if you already got the pass and everything else. Just more stuff to pad out all of the upgrades, as of course Silverglade this week reaches 25 stars, which gives a little bit extra gold per day. And of course it's a magic-based kingdom too, so if you haven't hit 5-star, 10-star, 20-star, great week to do so, though we'll get around to that when we get to the event key drop table. Anyways, so new troop. It's a bit of a weird one. It's not bad, it's just weird in that the blue troop summons it, but this is not a knight. And the other thing needs knight synergy, so a little bit of a confliction of interest there, as this is just a dragon, specifically a dragon egg, crystal eggs. As far as what it does, you get to choose one of two effects. Either gets to create 7 blue dragon gems, and it summons a random dragon, or creates 7 green dragon gems and summon a random dragon. So it's always summoning a random dragon, and will either create blue or green dragon gems, which are just ones that destroy the row or the column below it. So you end up getting a little bit extra mana accumulation from it, and of course, ideally an extra turn from when they match together. For the most part, it's pretty similar to quite a few of the other eggs. Does have a little bit of score reduction. You would never actually start your team with this. However, it can be okay if you end up summoning it off the infinite blue thing, though it does not count as a knight for the other thing's boost ratio, but it is pretty bulky. It does not have a 25% chance to revive like the other dragon, but the 30% score reduction should make up for it as far as its overall durability, and will be more consistent overall compared to the other egg. But similar to the other egg, you're pretty much never starting with it on your team in any composition. It is just something that simply gets summoned by other troops, most notably the really good one that came out this week. So, as far as the event key drop table, as we mentioned, is for Silverglade. Silverglade is a magic-based kingdom, so it might be worth doing it for that alone. As far as the things that are actually worth it, if we go down to, not Silver Necropolis, Silverglade, though Silver Necropolis, really good weapon, only tomorrow. Definitely make sure to get it. But as far as troops here, things that are not in the drop table include the Amethyst, the Gem Dragon, the Magician, the Tarot card, which is in the Volkey drop table. This one is from Soulforge, from the RNG system of the eggs, with Dragonite. And of course, the 5 faction troops from Silver Necropolis. Everything else that you see here is in the drop table. For the most part, pretty average stuff. There are a few good utility things that are used here. Also, Sir Illuvian, the thing from the Journey event, is also not on drop table. So those 7. The Journey troop, the Tarot card, the Gem Dragon, and of course the 5 faction troops. So, but yeah, as far as good things, Elspeth, very rarely used in the current state of the game because Leprechaun is just so much better in almost every situation. However, it is still good. If it misses, it's horrible, but it could be a turn 1 way to gain a lot of mana. Basically, how you use it is you use something that has one singular color, so you get to choose what the 11 gem spawn basically is. Kill that thing that uses that one singular color, and then boom, turn 1, you just create 11 gems. It's pretty similar to Siren that does, what, 9 gems? 8 gems? 9? I actually forget. But it's pretty similar to Siren, except you have control over it. Siren does it based on an enemy, whereas this does it based on an ally, so you always have control over what the color will be, whereas you don't always know what your enemy team will end up being, so a little bit more consistent in that regard. Aside from that, as far as things that are pretty good, more so for Guild War, but Tangle, or Tenenbaum, pretty decent. Most noteworthy thing is it has Impervious into triple damage Entangle. So any hero classes that have Entangle on extra turn, like Elementals and such, really, really strong. Even has some natural score reduction, so even if you haven't gotten the Entangle yet, you will still be able to go and reduce down their skull rate. And of course, as Impervious is probably the most annoying thing about it, which helps protect it from stun and some other things unless it gets curse stunned. Its ability doesn't do too much, just kind of repositions them, but it's mostly used for its Impervious into triple damage Entangle. And it can be very, very strong in Guild War teams, especially with like Rope Dart and other things. But it's normally just used with Elementalists. And there's a few okay high rarity stuff here. Christinix, Generally just like an AoE spammer. It's a little bit dated though. It used to be like the absolute best dragon in the game. Obviously, Gem Dragons have kind of outpaced that, which is not an event key drop table. However, it still has its summon, still has a decent amount of board control. But as far as actual mythics, Queen Aurora, while not used that often, is still pretty good. It ends up giving +1 mana to every single color. So you probably already know this with many troops. They have a +1 to a given color, like purple off a Thrall or green off a Leprechaun. Well, this does it to all 6 simultaneously. And it is decently strong. Very situational because there's already other mana accumulators, especially under the color, like the things we just mentioned. Leprechaun, Thrall, even Marilith under green, stuff like that. So you don't tend to use this too often. But with some of the restrictions this week, it will definitely get a bit more usage than normal. And there are quite a few good teams still, especially 4x Beast teams, that do still end up utilizing Queen Aurora as one of its stronger options. And yeah, that's pretty much the rundown. For the most part, if you're getting event keys this week, it is probably because you're looking for like one really key legend, like the Tannenbaum if you don't already have it, or you're just trying to get this thing upgraded, either to its current 25-star or any of the milestones to get additional permanent magic, which is always one of the best stats to be able to get. A lot of Magic Kingdoms this month, and this is the last one that we have of the month as well. It's the last week of the month. Anyways, so as far as the Journey event is concerned, we are restricted to the Blue Knights. So, of course, the new trip that we end up getting, really good with Blue Knights. We end up getting 2 things. A rather useless weapon that you're never going to use ever. Deal some damage to an enemy, boosted by blue allies and knights. Never use this, is very bad. However, one thing that is not bad is Sir Alioun. He is the 5th of the colors. I think the only one we're missing now is yellow. So the 5th of the Journey troops that infinite loop into themselves. It deals some damage to an enemy, then creates a bunch of blues, boosted by knight allies, which of course, if you have an entire team of knights, you'll be going and feeding a billion blue. And then you end up summoning a crystal dragon egg. So what we can end up doing with this is, of course, just infinite bluing. You can use this one off from first slot and have it back up summon too. So you'll have one less boost ratio because the dragon egg does not count as a knight, but you'll have infinite resummons into first slot. So you have an infinite tank in front of it, which is good because it surprisingly is a knight that does not have any score reduction. Normally they have like armored or something. Luckily, I did get like a few of the good immunities, like immune to silence, immune to mana drain. So it does have that with the high ancestry. However, and of course, so always will have Pathfinder, but it doesn't end up having that armor. So basically, this egg acts as its armor, as has 30% reduction, and it could just keep resummoning over and over again. So that basically acts as its armor trait in a sense. Really, really strong. And a lot of great teams that can end up being built with it as far as pure blue. As far as how the objectives are done, you basically just do it as you normally would. Just click bigger number, instantly kill them. Kill them as quickly as possible. Make sure you don't lose any allies. If you do, make sure he does this little egg thing. Obviously, kill every Valraven on sites. And that's basically all you have to do. In this particular team that you see here, we are using a offset of 1 with the weapon. Just a low 4 mana cost blue weapon there. It's mostly just there to tank for our other thing, and if it was to die, then, you know, we just resummon there. It does slow down the team ever so slightly, but it just makes sure we don't end up accidentally dying on the later fights. Obviously, on the earlier fights, you could reorder it as it doesn't do anything. But on the later fights, it'll be pretty important to make sure you don't die. Knight Hero class has barrier at start of fight, so you can end up utilizing that for a instant negation of an attack. And on top of that, what else did I get? Didn't I get something else that gives it durability? Oh yeah, I guess I like a lot of benefits in first slot. I think it was like 13 extra armor because 10 in first slot, and then 2 for commander. When troops have it, it's 3. When a hero has it, it's 2. Plus, it gets a little bit extra armor damage off of skulls, but it's mostly for the barrier more so than anything. Just to start with barrier, even as banish, though I don't think this team uses AoE. Oh yeah, it does with the other one. Oh, actually, it doesn't use true AoE. Because the way that both of these apply, I believe, applies in a way that does not trigger Submerge, even though they both technically can simultaneously hit everything or almost everything at the same time. But anyways, that's a Journey event. Just take bigger number and infinite loop with blue with whatever team you feel like using. And we'll have a couple more of them to show in a moment. But before we do, let's go over all the other things we have going on this week. This Tuesday, very, very exceedingly relevant. We have Silver Necropolis, and as many of you may know, and if you don't, you need to know, tomorrow is Life and Death Day. Life and Death, one of the strongest, if not the strongest, underworld weapons in the entire game. And you can only get it about once or twice per year for 1 day. So basically, about 2 days per year, you can end up getting this thing, for the most part. And tomorrow is one of those days. It is a very good weapon, has life steal, it has blessed itself, has gains that life, ends up death marking the enemy, ends up having a little mini mana drain. Really, really strong true damage weapon, among one of the stronger weapons in the entire game. And definitely as far as underworld weapons, definitely really high up there. It's still used quite a bit. Obviously, it's really good with Life and Death Weaver. It's probably its most noteworthy team, though it can be used in other contexts. Aside from that, it is definitely the most popular context to use it in. But definitely 100% make sure you do not leave tomorrow without it. You cannot craft it today. You cannot craft it on Wednesday. You can only craft it tomorrow. So all like the things in soulforge, those will be all week. But the Life and Death tomorrow, only tomorrow. You can either buy it through gems through the faction event, or you can craft it in soulforge only tomorrow. So definitely make sure to do so. Also, it's better to get it from the faction event if you're going to get it. Wednesday, we have the Silverglade pet. Thursday, we're going to be having Archmage's hero class. Really good hero class. +3 purple with 50% mana start. Out of any of the heroes that have +3 mana is by far the strongest due to its natural 50% mana start. Really, really good overall hero class. You probably see me using it a lot, particularly for Thursday class events, including this Thursday class event, of course. Just a really good all-around quick cast weapon, especially if you're using a weapon that uses purple, like Black Manacle or similar. And this Friday, most notably, we have our Vault weekend, so we're ending out the season with a good old Vault weekend. Of course, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, great time to be grinding. Ideally, just quick kill explore, but you could be doing pretty much anything and be getting a bunch of gnomes, and those gnomes end up giving you vault keys and other valuable loots, and then you can open all those vault keys, of which we pretty much have. We're almost down to 0, other than our epic vault keys. But yeah, definitely make sure to get on that. Underspire, of course, same as usual. As far as soulforge is concerned, there are a few things to mention that are somewhat relevant. The most relevant thing, oddly enough, is not a mythic for once. It is Tesla. If you currently do not own Tesla, you need to make sure you try to own Tesla before the end of this week. It is ridiculously strong. It deals a bunch of true damage based on all armor, so not only your ally armor, but your enemy armor. The most relevant part about that being the enemy armor, meaning it scales throughout the entire game. You can use it for pretty much any mode and auto-win. You can use it for your pet battles if you're struggling with them. You can use it to push dungeons all the way to level 20 if you're struggling with them. You can use it for the entirety of, well, assuming you can use red or blue, you can use it for the entirety of Underworld, all the way up to 500, and pretty much solo every single one, just using her with a team around it. It is really, really, really strong. And yeah, we'll carry you through the entire game. You can literally just run this as every team for the rest of the time and probably be fine, other than on restrictions where she's not allowed to be used, which of course you cannot use her. But really insanely good troop. As far as things that are not her, nothing too good, but a lot of things particularly relevant to this week, oddly enough. Queen Aurora, while also in event key drop table, is also available in the soulforge if you wanted to get her. I wouldn't say it's worth going every way to craft, but she is here. Champion of Anu, once again, generally not a mythic you would consider crafting. However, it does have some pretty good synergy with the infinite blue trip that we end up getting this week. So it does have that going for it. However, there's also another alternative, like the mythic we got earlier this month. The mythic for this month was actually a blue knight that synergizes really well with this. And as far as other things, Scorpius, while I personally haven't really been using this lately, it is still pretty good in the current state of the game. Scorpius for the double kill. You can end up cursing with Bane of Mercy. You then go and get automatic poison off of using Aureale because it has poison on extra turn. You then get this thing to full mana from Bane of Mercy using a purple convert, and then you double kill into double kill. And because it'll be both cursed and poisoned, so even if they have immune, they'll be able to be poisoned. And then you just cast them again, and you'll win. There are quicker ways to win these days, however, it is still a pretty quick option, and definitely one worth considering if you want to go down that route, if you don't have some of the other things like Diamantina, Zolgoth, other things like that. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much a rundown there. And as far as weapons, I wouldn't say anything is particularly relevant, except for tomorrow, where you should definitely 100% make sure you get Life and Death, because it's only available tomorrow and only tomorrow, which is why you don't see any Life and Death here, but it'll be here tomorrow and only tomorrow. Aside from that, you're mostly just getting stuff for completion's sake, or if you need it for Kingdom Stars to reach any milestone that you can get up to. Anyways, let's go and show a bunch of teams. So, there's quite a few. Let's start all the way from the top. Journey. So as far as Journey, we're kind of already mentioning this. We're running a Sir Alduin. Obviously, you have to ride him for the triple score. Make sure to fully ascend him too, so you get the max amount of score. You can end up doing this by buying tier 3 and then upgrading him with 2 blue orbs, or you can buy tier 4 and upgrade him with 1 blue orb. Or you can just keep buying tiers until he's maxed. But those two save a lot more gems doing either tier 3 or 4. Tier 3 is 250 gems with 2 blues, and tier 4 is 500 gems with 1 blue. So depending on how many blues you have or how you want to go about it, or contribute to your guild, you could end up doing it based on that. I would not advise buying all the way to tier 6 or something similar, but you can if you want. Would definitely help get the event done, that's for sure. As far as things to use, as I mentioned, Guardian of Law actually came out earlier this month. I wonder if it did deliberately just to give this thing more synergy. But yeah, you can end up running with this. Deals either single target true damage or a bunch of damage to 3. So depending on which one you want. It's also really bulky, 80% spell reduction and 40% score reduction. Aside from that, Champion of Anu gives 1 to all blue allies per turn. You can even double up on this. Oddly enough, I actually got a Champion of Anu when I was buying the tiers for the thing. I think on tier 4 I ended up getting a spear. So if you have it, I didn't want to show for this because not a lot of people have like 2, 3, 4 champion advantage. Well, you wouldn't run 4, but you can run 2 and 3. And I think I might actually have that many. Wait, let me double check because I did get another one earlier. Oh, I have 7. Do I have 3? But yeah, one alternative if you have a billion champion advantages for some reason is you can literally just run him with like a billion champion advantages behind it, so that at least the first turn or two while you're getting your mana, you'll get a couple additional stats. That's only if you have more champion advantage than you know what to do with, but that is an option if you happen to have that many. But otherwise, yeah, you just have one of them, offset it with the other guy, or some other blue thing that you have laying around, and you're just good to go. You just keep casting this until you win. You can even multi-up on Sir Alien. There's no penalty to using multiple, though there is no additional benefit other than, having another one. But in case he misses, you can have another one to get more mana accumulation back. That does make it so you have to buy a weird number of tiers, though. For example, you'd have to buy tier 4 and then use double blue orb instead of doing tier 4 and 1 blue orb. So it would cost you a bit more resources, but it is potentially worth considering if you don't have some of the higher rarity stuff to use with it. Alternatively, if you don't have some of the higher rarity stuff to use with it, one other alternative other than spamming Sir Alien is spamming Sir Snothelm. So Sir Snothelm has an automatic extra turn, as pretty much every goblin does, and he's just a little bit of chip damage. So yeah, you can run either like double of him into that, and yeah, you're just good to go. You might notice here we're using the sword again. Once I mentioned earlier, of course, this is just for tanking. For the earlier fights, you might want to use it earlier up, or further up, and just use whatever. However, for the later fights, you are going to get to the point where you probably need something to bulk out a little bit, and just having that little bit of extra barrier will help keep you alive. And if it does happen to die, well, this thing summons an egg in that location. So as long as you have this in second slot or further back, you'll end up getting an egg replaced there. While your boost ratio will go down, your points will not be negated, as there are 2 things that Journey is based on: how quickly you win and how many troops you finish with. So you do want to make sure you finish with 4 still, just to preserve your points. Anyways, as far as factions are concerned, we have Silver Necropolis tomorrow. Make sure to go get Life and Death. It is a brown-purple restriction. So under brown-purple, of course, we have Guards Avatar Sir Quan Hadley. You can also run Gargoyle, some other things. Anything you want to run, you have access to Leprechaun and Thrall, so you could pretty much just run whatever with that. Just use those 2, run a damage source, you're good to go. And that's exactly what we do with this team. Thrall, Leprechaun, since we have access to purple. And of course, while this one shows Hiking Iron Good Zolgoth, which is pretty standard for high-level delves, you can run pretty much whatever. Just hero tanking in the first slot to get some class XP. And, any damage source you have. It could be literally anything that's brown or purple, and just put it there and you're good to go. But of course, if you happen to have it, you can run Hiking Iron Good Zolgoth. Anyways, next we have the Pier faction. There are 2 ways to run the Pier faction: double Bone Golem into double Vanya, which is the safer way, or the more offensive way, which is 1 Bone Golem and triple Vanya. I showed the more defensive one here, but you can go either or depending on your stats. But basically, as long as you go into the final fight with Bone Golem and at least 2 Vanyas, you should be fine. Honestly, if you go into the final fight with just Bone Golem, you're probably fine. But yeah, you just keep scaling with Bone Golem over and over again and then win. You don't get as much value from the Death Mark, as there are quite a few things with immune on the first and final fight. However, you can use it on everything else in between to end up helping out, if nothing else. It ends up exploding a gem, so you have a little bit of border control. Ends up inflicting a bunch of death marks onto the opposing team, assuming they can be death marked, which on the first and final fight will not help you that much, but on the other ones it could. And most noteworthy thing, and the reason why this thing's even any good, is it gains a bunch of attack and armor. Anything that gains both durability and attack in Underworld tends to be pretty strong. You just keep spamming them and then win. They get bulky enough that they don't die. They get enough attack value that they few shots or even one-shot some enemies, and you're just good to go. Has 50% scar reduction, which synergizes really well with the fact that he's already really bulky. And you can just solo the entire thing. The whole point while you have Vanyas is to make yourself a little bit more damage, speed up the fights before they get something that might kill you. It just deals damage to all enemies, boosted by blessed allies, and then summons a Silver Necropolis troop. So you have backup summon as well, on top of everything else. And as far as what it does, it has its own bless, so you get its own boost ratio, and it'll help keep you immune to a bunch of other status effects. So just go that, keep spamming its AoEs, and keep bulking up your Bone Golem. And you can either go and chip them down with AoE, or just go all in, make sure your Bone Golem is nice and bulky, and kill them out that way. As far as Underspire is concerned, we are restricted specifically to anything from Silverglade. So one thing we end up doing with this is good old Princess Elspeth. I forget if we actually showed Princess Elspeth for any of these teams yet. However, yeah, Princess Elspeth, really good. Basically, I already explained the premise earlier, but she ends up creating 11 gems chosen based on one of your allies. And if they only have one color, it'll do that color guaranteed. So here we're using a Silver Drake. We are then immediately killing that Silver Drake. It will then turn into a random knight, as it says right there, summon a random knight. And then you'll get 11 purple mana. Ideally, that 11 purple mana will give you an extra turn, and you'll probably have a full Amethyst. And then you cast Amethyst, and then you win. You have Queen Aurora here for extra mana, and if you get a ton of extra purple, you can also use that to feed back into Amethyst, and you just keep casting this thing until you win, and that's pretty much the whole premise here. As far as the lower rarity team, we're actually running a very similar premise with Princess Elspeth into Silver Dragon again. However, we're actually running the Bone Golem again. Bone Golem, while of course good for that Underspire thing, it's also going to be good for, or not the Underspire thing, I mean the Underworld thing. However, it's also good for Underspire. So for Underspire, you'll probably be able to def mark almost everything that you're fighting in most fights, so it'll have that benefit, unlike in the Underworld variant. It still has its really good bulk, it still ends up gaining like infinite stats, and yeah, it'll be good to go. Same kind of premise, except we're using Reflection of Good. You can go more of an offensive route. I just figured we'd go defensive and just go all in Bone Golem here. This one is definitely fully committing to the Bone Golem. And we're just using Archmages here to end up giving ourselves a bunch of extra mana. And we're just feeding the mirror back into Bone Golem to give it every positive stats effect in the game. And yeah, it's working out pretty good. You're also going to get a random knight, so you'll cover more color. It seems like we're not covering that much, but you will get a random knight here that will hopefully cover an extra color or two. And yeah, you just keep casting Bone Golem until you win. Next, we have ourselves the Archmages class event, which, of course, as you know, Black Mana with Archmages is pretty much already standard for a lot of weeks. However, even more so this week. And once again, we're running Princess Elspeth into a thing. Unfortunately, we are restricted to Mystics from Silverglade, which means like we cannot run a singular color purple, because the other thing I think was just a dragon or something. So we end up going with the Moon Phoenix. That way, if it does do yellow, we'll get Vanya instead. Otherwise, if it does purple, we'll get Black Manacle and Vanya. So that's pretty much the whole premise. You just instantly kill out the Moon Phoenix. Ideally, get both of these to full mana, cast Black Manacle, and if you need any more backup damage, you cast Vanya or Black Manacle a second time. And it's pretty much the whole premise there. Next, we have ourselves the team I actually want to go show. So, let's go, how about Sword's Edge? Let's go to the good old Sword's Edge and see what we can do with this team. So, there are quite a few teams that you can, ways you can end up building this. But I figured we stick with an all-blue knight version. And specifically, Rope Dart. So, Rope Dart is an interesting one. As far as what Rope Dart can end up doing with us, is it has auto extra turn. And of course this goblin also has auto extra turn. So what we're going to be doing here is spamming auto extra turn. A little bit of a slow start here. However, that is why we're using the... unfortunately, we didn't go any Empower or something here. Under the category of Knights, we don't really have too much good options under that category. However, one thing that we do have is a ton of extra turns. So we have Rope Dart, which plays an interesting dynamic. So we're just going to poke this. And get a little bit more mana. We're just going to poke it again. So, of course, Rope Dart has Armor Tier. But it also has Auto Extra Turn. So we just hit whatever the biggest threat is. So we'll get rid of the Summoner. We then go and hit our Auto Extra Turn off of that. And then boom, dead and repeat cycle. So now we just go and poke something. We now go Rope Dart whatever the next biggest threat is. Probably this one because of freeze and all of its mana and everything. We do that again. Boom. Because it has this mana drain thing. And now we do it again. We poke this thing. We go and Rope Dart the other one. And, I was hoping to be in kill range of this. I was going to say, and then we cast this thing for the finisher. Oh, yeah, we do, actually. We do that. And then we cast this thing for the finisher. This thing also gives you 1 to all stats to all blue allies, which is why the reasons we're using this. On the few turns that it takes to get your full mana, you'll end up gaining a bunch of stats to all your troops. So you'll have a little bit more to end up working with. And then we just do that. Boom, dead. And you just rinse and repeat that until you win every single fight. But yeah, Rope Dart synergy, pretty nice. I'm actually curious because I wonder if the yellow one will end up doing Rope Dart synergy better. It's the only color we're missing, and I'm pretty sure it'll be stronger than this. So even though this seems kind of strong, it's like, oh, we could do Rope Dart with that right now. I feel like the yellow one is going to be substantially stronger. Like, we can already see now, like, what the weaker version basically is going to be with blue into Rope Dart. But yellow into Rope Dart, the possibilities with that, especially depending on what typing it gets, and it's probably going to be Divine. I'd be very surprised if it's not Divine. I'm not sure if we already know based on data mining. But I would pretty sure it's going to be Divine or something. We'll find out. But if it is, oh, that's going to be so strong. That is going to be so strong. Oh, no, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we're still getting one more. We have all the colors except for yellow, so I always have to wait and see. But for now, you can run this one. And this one is perfectly fine, or any similar variant. Obviously, you don't have to go all blue. I happen to because it just kind of felt right. However, you can go any knights. They just have to be knights. So, for example, we could literally just go Sir Aluin, Rope Dart, and then a knight and a knight. It doesn't have to be blue knights. I figured we might as well utilize the blue mana as well as the extra turn spam from it. And of course, having pure blue just gives a little bit extra stats starting off. So it's one team that you can end up running with it, of the many that will end up being formed over the next coming weeks probably, with all the synergies it has. But seeing this synergy with Rope Dart really makes me excited for what the yellow one will be, which we should see in about a month from now that I think about it. Because next Journey event should be sometime late October. or very, very early November. So, yeah, it's right around the corner. Anyways, guys, don't forget to go get Life and Death tomorrow. Very important for completionist sake and because it's a really good weapon. Don't forget, if you bought into the campaign or even just in general, to finish out the campaign. Even if you're just playing free-to-play and you haven't bought into the campaign at all, finishing the campaign gives you 6 magic that you can utilize for the rest of this week for whatever modes you want. And as well as these other stats, though the most relevant one, of course, being the 6 magic. So, you know, even on the free side, still very worth it. Plus all the deed books and everything else that you end up getting. As there are some deed books on the free side, which you can end up using. And there are, 2 30-star kingdoms. I actually forgot to mention it last Friday. Someone brought it to my attention. I thought it was like 29-star or something, but apparently Leonis Empire can also reach 30-star now. The problem with it is, well, it's also a blue kingdom. And I personally went for Sword's Edge first, which actually I think we already have at 30-star. Yeah, we do. 30-star Sword's Edge, which is current max within the current state of the game. But yeah, apparently Leonis Empire also is. Problem with that, though, it's blue. So if you already did Sword's Edge, well, you can't do Leonis Empire, because you probably don't have enough blue deeds laying around to do both. But at some point we will. Hopefully we'll add more deeds in the future. But anyways, guys, that's a rundown. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. In the description is all the teams we mentioned if you want to go and copy paste any of them. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will catch all of you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.